Okay, we have some RoboCop news today. We're checking out RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business, Worth Your Time and Money overview. This is from the Scarlet Seeker.
Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business. Now if you're not across it, I do overviews on this channel. It's where I have a look at the first 2 hours of a game. That's the Steam refund window. Steam reckons you can make up your mind about a game in that time. I generally agree as a rule. I would say 20 hours in, probably not going to change your mind about how you felt 2 hours in. So it's a short punchy video, broad strokes info, keep it around 10 minutes and then you can make up your mind on your own. So this is being called a standalone adventure of RoboCop Rogue City. So it's not a DLC, it's its own separate thing that you can buy. And so far it's living up to all the expectations that you would hope. I'll just wind it back a little bit in case you're not across it. In recent times, Taeon, the developer, under publisher Nacon, have actually been putting out some bangers. Specifically, they did Terminator Resistance a couple of years ago, which was a revisiting of the Terminator franchise.
I said, so they can charge more.
Format and in all indie come AA janky glory, but absolute pure passion project that's just by fans for fans. And I don't think it exactly exploded onto the scene, but it definitely built up a huge cult momentum in the background.
I enjoyed what I played of it.
Which then led to them following it up with RoboCop Rogue City. Same thing, different franchise, absolutely excellent game. If you consider yourself a fan of that 80s nostalgia, action movie, RoboCop specifically, obviously, but just that entire time period of cinema that a lot of, old boys like me grew up on, it's a brilliant game from top to bottom. And so then comes this Unfinished Business. And I guess this weird labeling and release makes sense. It's not a sequel. It's still within the same engine, within the same system, same RPG mechanics and all that sort of stuff. But it does throw you into the deep end. When I think about it, I haven't seen this sort of spin-off, sequel, standalone DLC in a long time. But it makes sense, right? Self-contained. You could jump into this first. I wouldn't suggest it. There's nothing wrong with it. And I guess maybe because it's expecting that there's a bit of knowledge from the player, it really does hit the ground running and it's pretty action heavy, non-stop actually. Whereas the first game is a little bit more, in its homage and throwback. It does take the time to have slower story beats and let you wander around and talk to people and, dare I say, more boring parts. This doesn't seem to be it. If anything, this is the movie Dread, but in video game form in the RoboCop universe. So
it's
unusual,
time to go
but
full
you
throttle.
couldn't ask for anything better. Everyone complaining about how bad gaming is these days are clearly not playing the same games as me. For an 80s child that grew up on all this stuff, I've been eating so well for the past few years. So yeah, that's actually a really good blurb. The setup being that the Metro Police Center that you're familiar with from the first game, has been hit by some fairly high-tech mercenaries and they stole RoboCop's chair. So this gives us impetus and it hobbles the police force as well. You're pretty much it at the moment. And within the first, half hour, you're briefed that you're going to take on these mercenaries that are set up in this OCP tower, which ties really well into the whole world building. If you're not across it, a big part of RoboCop is playing with the idea of outsourcing normally stateside industry, specifically police force, to this megacorp OCP that's trying to get into Detroit and refurbish it and futurize it. But
he's right, very Dread-like,
etc., etc. So they've got this high-tech super tower, think Dread, think the Raid, that is outside of police jurisdiction because OCP in many ways kind of owns the police and has the right to set such things. And you need to fight your way all the way up the tower to stop them from building this technology. And, it's sort of meeting out the story a little bit as you go. But it does. It feels like Dread. It feels much more corridor in construction. I mean, if you do think of something like Dread or the Raid as a movie, everything moves forward floor by floor in a corridor structure kind of way, and that's what's going on here. In the first RoboCop game, there were sort of these open world instances that you could move around neighborhoods and that sort of thing, do a lot of side quests. There are side quests in here, but it's definitely thinner by design. This is much more of an action romp thunder run through a corridor of bad guys. There's some drones thrown in, some really cool, interesting little set pieces so far that I don't want to give away. It's cool to be playing with all the little RPG mechanics again. I find the skills not to be that big a deal, but the Auto 9, the pistol, and how you can slot the motherboard with little widgets and nodes to be one of the coolest little menu upgrade systems that I've seen in any game in recent years. Apparently, according to trailers and all that, there is like
I wasn't a
flashbacks
huge fan
to
of that
playing
aspect.
as Murphy before he was RoboCop, and I think there's even a section where you get to be Ed 209. That's exciting. That's very cool, but it's definitely not in the first 2 hours. I haven't seen any of that, and it's not really apparent to me how exactly I would go about playing something like that, or how it would work its way into the story. But still, I guess we'll see where it goes. It is probably worth mentioning that this is an expensive game. They all are. I'm not necessarily against opening a discussion about that sort of thing, about if you think your game is worth it, charge more for it. Gamers, I'm talking to you, us, we're a fickle people, right? People are very quick to say vote with your wallet, but they don't really live up to it. They'll just use that to be a pearl-clutching Karen that refuses to buy a game on some principle. But at the same time, if you're putting 10 billion hours into RimWorld, why aren't you buying multiple copies and giving it to your friends and all that sort of stuff? Vote with your wallet kind of cuts the other way. And I think if you really want to live up to that philosophy, there should be room in your diet for buying games to paying more for the ones that you really want. But again, some people will immediately dislike that and shut down the video. They don't want to hear that. Vote with your wallet only seems to work one way for many people. So yeah, these Teon games tend to be overpriced by standard, but at the same time, I want these things to exist. I really like them, jank and all, so I think they're worth it. And having said all of that, Rogue City at the moment is on super deep discount, presumably leading up to this release. I only just checked, I was curious, and it's like 90% off. So even though that still goes for like $80 Australian, which is pretty much AAA price. It's very close.
Yeah.
You can pick it up for like $5 or $10 now in the lead up to Unfinished Business, the spin-off. Anyway, it's excellent. I'm glad it's all working out. They clearly have a model that's working for them. Overpriced or not, they keep churning out bangers. This thing doesn't feel like some cash grab, asset flip or anything like that. It just feels like another realized adventure, tapping into adjacent nostalgia through the Carl Urban Dread film set up, and they're putting it in RoboCop.
Love that movie.
I'm sure I've speculated about this before, but my goodness, wouldn't it be cool if they actually made a Dread game under Teon as a developer? That'd be cool.
I think that may be where they're headed.
Toes and testing the water, who really knows. But yeah, it should be out shortly after putting this video up. I'm not really 100% sure where the embargo sits, but highly recommend it, especially if you like the first game. If you missed the first game, now's the best time ever to buy it on the cheap and play through it in anticipation for this one. Anyway, I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Okay, as you can see, that is the Scarlet Seeker. So go ahead and give him a sub and like his video. I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So RoboCop Rogue City was one of the highlights of this generation of gaming, and it's not something that you should miss out on if you never had the opportunity to play. If you own a decent PC, I would recommend picking it up on PC, because there are some areas where the console versions fall short. There's things that you're unable to adjust that are quite aggravating in terms of how Lumen works, and you really want to be able to manipulate Lumen and some of the other aspects of the visual presentation. And performance is pretty solid across all platforms, but if you really want to make adjustments to the visual representation of the environments and your character and, just the environments in general, that's definitely something you may want to consider picking it up on PC. That's a good option that you should reserve. Yeah. So as far as Unfinished Business, it sounds like it's going to be phenomenal. It sounds like it's going to be the next step in the evolution of what that game was. I think they're responding to some of the criticism of the game maybe kind of slogging along here and there and not maintaining its momentum, which it surely seems it is going to with Unfinished Business. So yeah, what else is there to say other than, yeah, instant buy. Definitely gonna pick this up, gonna check it out, and maybe I'll even record a few playthroughs for you guys if you're interested. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed what you heard here today, please do remember to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notifications button for additional stories on similar topics. And as always, I will catch you in the next one.